If you've ever flipped through a language textbook, you've probably noticed that they absolutely love certainty, right? They teach you these rigid phrases like, I am going to the store, or the apple is red. But let's be real for a second. Real life is rarely 100% certain. In fact, most of our everyday conversations actually live in this messy, gray area of maybe, perhaps, and I wonder. And when you're dealing with a high-context culture like Japan's, softening your statements so you don't sound overly aggressive or blunt, that's not just some obscure grammar rule. It's practically a social survival skill. Mastering the art of reading the air, what they call kuki wo yomu, means knowing exactly how and when to express doubt. If you truly want to sound natural when you speak Japanese, you absolutely have to master this delicate balance. And that is exactly what we are going to conquer today.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really crucial piece of JLPT N4 grammar by mastering two incredibly important Japanese phrases, kamoしれないand kana. And look, by the end of this deep dive, you aren't just going to know what these words mean on a flashcard. You're going to know exactly how to feel them, exactly when to deploy them, and how they completely change the flavor of your everyday conversations.
Here is our game plan for today. Number 1, navigating Japanese uncertainty. Number 2, kamoしれない, the 50-50 chance. Number 3, kana, thinking out loud. Number 4, fact versus feeling. And finally, number 5, the ultimate doubt summary. Let's jump right into part 1, navigating Japanese uncertainty, the spectrum of doubt. So here's the thing. In Japanese, how you express a simple concept like maybe depends heavily on a couple of factors. Who exactly are you talking to, and precisely how much doubt are you dealing with in that moment? Like, are you guessing a fact based on hard evidence right in front of you? Or are you just sort of wondering aloud to yourself? Because you actually need entirely different tools for those two different jobs. To bridge that communication gap today, we're going to look closely at two heavy hitters, kamoしれない, kana. These are going to be your absolutely essential everyday tools for expressing that things aren't perfectly certain. Moving on to part 2, kamoしれない, the 50-50 chance, the outward maybe. First step in our toolkit, we have kamoしれない. Now, this translates most commonly to might or perhaps. But what's truly fascinating here is the specific level of probability it represents. We aren't talking about a tiny 1 in a million sliver of a chance, and we aren't talking about a near certainty either. This is your standard, reliable way of saying that something is a very real, tangible possibility. When you drop this word into a sentence, you're actively signaling to whoever's listening that there's roughly a 50-50 chance of this thing happening. It's like you've looked at the evidence out there in the world, you've mentally weighed the scales, and you've decided, yeah, this could easily go either way. It's highly objective, it's all about looking outward at the world and making a calculated guess. Okay, for those of you taking notes for the JLPT N4 exam, let's talk conjugation rules. The good news? Kamoしれないis actually super friendly to use in practice. For your standard verbs and adjectives, you just tack it right onto the end of the dictionary form. Literally just stick it on there. Super straightforward. But, and this is a big but, here is the trick you really need to watch out for. For nouns and not adjectives, you absolutely must drop the da before adding it. You never ever say da kamoしれない. You just attach it directly to the root word. So for example, if you take a noun like student, which is gakusei, you wouldn't say gakusei da kamoしれない. You just say gakusei kamoしれない. Let's make this concrete. Picture this scenario. You're standing by a window and you're looking out at these really dark, heavy, ominous gray clouds gathering in the distance. The air outside just feels thick and humid. You know the feeling. You turn to your friend and based on that physical evidence in the sky, you state, 明日雨が降るかもしれない. It might rain tomorrow. Notice how furu, that's the dictionary form of the verb to rain, connects directly to かもしれない. You're looking at outward evidence, the clouds, the humidity, and stating a clear, logical 50-50 possibility. Let's try another one. Imagine you're walking down a hallway, and you see a guy carrying this massive stack of freshly graded papers, a bright red pen, and a whiteboard marker. You process all those specific visual clues to make an educated 50-50 guess about what he does for a living. Kare wa sensei kamoしれない? He might be a teacher. Now, sensei is a noun, so remember our golden rule from a minute ago? Notice there is no da in the middle of that sentence. It is definitely not sensei da kamoしれない. It's just clean, simple. Sensei kamoしれない. Now, obviously, language is this living, breathing thing. It constantly changes depending on exactly where you are and who you're hanging out with. While you would absolutely use the full polite form, かもしれません, in a formal office speaking directly to your boss, things get way faster and much shorter out on the busy streets of Tokyo. When you're just with friends, casual speech chops this big, long word all the way down to just kamo. It's punchy, it's incredibly versatile, and I guarantee you'll hear it absolutely everywhere. A friend might excitedly text you, "Ikeru kamo," meaning I might be able to go. It packs all that objective 50-50 probability into 2 quick, energetic syllables. All right, let's shift gears completely for part 3. Kana, thinking out loud, the inward wonder. So if Kamo Shiranai is all about calculating objective probability out there in the real world, Kana is a whole different beast. Kana translates beautifully to just, I wonder. It's this very soft, sentence-ending particle. And when you use Kana, you're essentially opening up a little window right into your own mind. It feels much more like you're talking directly to yourself, or maybe you're just softly wondering out loud while someone else happens to be in the room. It's also, by the way, a fantastic little trick if you want to make a request sound a lot less demanding and much more gentle. But at its core, it perfectly captures that deeply internal feeling of just wondering. Think about it like this. Imagine sitting at this really cozy, dimly lit little restaurant. The waiter sets down a dish in front of you that you have literally never seen before. Steam is rising off of it, the colors are super vibrant, maybe it looks a little strange or exotic. In this moment, you aren't making some factual 50-50 declaration to the entire room about the food. You're just having a quiet, personal moment of curiosity. You look down at your plate and just kind of murmur, "Oishii kana?" I wonder if it's delicious. It's a pure, unedited reflection of your own internal thought process. Or consider another situation that really builds on that internal feeling. Picture a highly relatable mini panic. We've all been there, right? You are frantically sprinting down a crowded Tokyo street. Your bag is bouncing wildly against your side, and you're desperately trying to catch the absolute last train of the night. You glance down at your watch, your heart is pounding out of your chest, and you just think to yourself, "Manio kana? I wonder if I'll make it in time." Again, you aren't stating a probability statistic for anyone else to hear. You're expressing your personal internal anxiety and raw doubt. Now, before we move on, there's a super interesting historical nugget here regarding how people express wondering in Japanese. Traditionally speaking, kana was considered more neutral or even slightly masculine. Meanwhile, women would historically use a specific, different particle, kashira, to express that exact same I wonder feeling. But language evolves, right? It changes rapidly. Today, kana is incredibly common and it's used universally by basically everyone. But it's still a really fantastic little detail to keep in your back pocket, especially if you're listening to older generations of speakers or watching classic Japanese movies. Bringing it all together now in part 4, fact versus feeling, the showdown. Okay, listen up, because this right here is your main takeaway. If you remember absolutely one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this exact comparison. Over on the left side of our mental scale, we have kamo shiranai. This is a statement of possibility based on real-world evidence. When you use it, you are looking outward at the situation unfolding around you, facts. But over on the right side, we have kama. This is a quiet reflection of doubt, of curiosity or anxiety. When you use it, you're looking deeply inward at your own thoughts, feelings. So it's outward facts versus inward feelings. If you can keep that core distinction crystal clear in your head, I promise your Japanese is going to sound incredibly natural and nuanced. Finally, let's wrap this up with part 5, the ultimate doubt summary, your JLPT cheat sheet. Let's lock this in by synthesizing everything we've covered into a mental cheat sheet for you. First, we've got kamoshirenai, meaning might or perhaps. This naturally sits at a standard casual politeness level, unless, of course, you upgrade it to kamoshiremasen for your boss. And your big usage tip here, reserve it for a solid 50% external probability. In total contrast, right below it, we have kana, meaning I wonder. This one is categorized as very casual, and your absolute pro tip is to use it when you're simply thinking out loud or just musing to yourself. These are 2 entirely different, deeply fascinating ways to navigate the little uncertain moments of everyday life in Japanese. Well, we've covered a vast amount of ground today, haven't we? Moving from the heavy, ominous rain clouds of objective probability all the way to the frantic inner monologue of wondering if we're going to catch our final train. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. The very next time you find yourself completely unsure about something in Japan, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, will you look outward at the concrete facts with kamoshirenai, or will you look inward at your complex feelings with kana? The choice is completely yours. Keep practicing, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next explainer.